It's time for Inside the Jets, presented by EY, building a better working world. Now, here's Bart Scott and Dan Graca.
And welcome into Inside the Jets, presented by EY, building a better working world. Dan Graca alongside Bart Scott. And Bart, this is it, my man. End of the road, last show of the season. You sad it all or what?
Yeah, boys and man style, man.
We've come to the
It's
end
all
of the
good,
road.
though. But, all great things come to an end, and just happy that we're able to make it through and that the guys did such a tremendous job in NFL and all the protocol. They did a good enough job to keep everybody as safe as possible. And, we're going to have playoffs, and we're going to have a Super Bowl. We're going to have a draft, and hopefully we can get back to normal, and we can continue to have our traditions that we're used and accustomed to dealing with when it comes to our NFL schedule.
256 games up, 256 games down, and for the New York Jets, the 16th and final game was played on Sunday in Foxborough. They lose to the Patriots 28-14. They finished 2-14 for the first time in the history of their franchise with that exact same record. But really, the big news comes Sunday night when we find out that Adam Gase was relieved of his duties as head coach after 2 years. And I mean, Bart, everybody kind of saw the writing on the wall. You figured that this was going to be the outcome for him, and just didn't get the results necessary over the last two seasons.
Well, this is a results business, and the organization decided to say, you know what, let's not double down on this. Let's see what we can do, where we can get better at. And everybody is always under evaluation, whether it's coaches, whether it's strength coaches, whether it's players. We're all constantly being evaluated, and the organization thought it was best to move forward with someone else as the head coach. Let's hope that, Joe Douglas and the team gets it right this time, and hopefully we can get somebody that can be around for a long time, that can build this program. This is a young team. They have a lot of flexibility, a lot of cap space, a lot of draft picks. And if you build this thing right, it can be built with a foundation that can have sustainable success for the decades to come.
Yeah, and earlier on Monday, Christopher Johnson did a conference call with the media, and, the question was asked about the committee and this searching process, and it's going to be, himself and Joe Douglas and Jaime Elhai, the team president. And, but Christopher also said, look, Joe has been around the league. Joe is well respected. Joe's voice is going to be the one to carry the most weight in this search. So it is going to fall on the shoulders of the general manager here to be able to find that next leader. And that's the thing you've heard a lot too over the last couple of days, right? Stress from the organization, a leader, a CEO type, someone who's going to inbrand a culture here. That's what they're looking for to be the next head coach of this team.
Yeah, because some people want offensive gurus, defensive gurus. That's not what you need. What you need is a leader of men. And then, you can find guys that are exceptional at, the offensive X's and O's and the execution, the defensive X's and O's. But if you can't lead and inspire people to come to work and work hard when they're hurt, injured, and play for each other, not play for themselves, then you're going to have a team that's going to always underperform and always come up quite short. But when you have a team that's willing to lay it on the line for each other, a team that buy in, a team that has belief, not only in what they've been taught, but also in each other, and they lay it on the line, then they can punch above their weight class, right?
All right, let's get more on Sunday's game from senior reporter Eric Allen and former Jet tight end Anthony Beck. Take it away, guys.
Thanks, fellas. Well, Anthony, I thought it was looking good for the green and white. Maybe a third consecutive win in the cards. They had a 14-7 lead in the second half, but from there, the Patriots took charge.
Yeah, a couple storylines, obviously. I mean, to start the game, a little nervous on how the Patriots started the game, and, of course, how the Jets offense started the game. Not really clicking at any cylinder. It had some nice runs, but really weren't able to do much in the first couple starts. And then finally they picked up steam in that last drive before the half. Sam Darnold was able to put it together, really a nice half for him, 146 yards passing and a touchdown, no interceptions. And to tie it up was really big because the defense, after that first series of the Patriots, it looked like it was going to be a bit of a disaster, but it wasn't. You come out of halftime, and the biggest question is, can you come out and match and do something when you get the football? And the Jets did. So you're 14-7, and then from there, kind of the wheels fell off, Eric, as we all saw. Interceptions, turnovers, Patriots took advantage of it. From a defensive perspective, the Jets weren't able to stop the run. Almost 6 yards a carry, and that ultimately, combined with the turnovers, were the biggest factors in the game.
What did you make of Sam Darnold's effort? But we're going to be talking about Darnold throughout the offseason, and we know that.
We can talk about the bright spots, and I think that's been the story of Sam. is, talking about the flashes. But when the game's on the line, it's crunch time, and you need your quarterback to make the play in the second half. He didn't come up big. So, I would say lackluster across the board. And you look at the last couple games, but when it was there for him to make a play, he didn't make a play at the second half of the game, and ultimately cost us football the game.
Yeah, I thought this was really tough for Jets fans because they didn't get an opportunity to see Denzel Mims, a second-round pick out of Baylor, an impressive receiver, and also Mekhi Becton, the rookie left tackle. They both did not finish the game.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It's been a crazy year. You just hate to see it for Mims. Started the season injured, ends the season injured. We definitely saw enough from Becton this year to really, be excited about his future long term. I think the guy that honestly impressed me the most in the final stretch of the season was Chris Herndon. And I think we can all justify that. He's really played very well, a lot more confidence, and that does come with his opportunities, and he made the most of them at the end of the season.
A difficult year for the New York Jets ends on a low note at Gillette Stadium, a 28-14 loss to the New England Patriots. The green and white finished the year 2-14. For Anthony Beck, I'm Eric Allen.
And when we return on Inside the Jets, we'll be joined by Jet right guard Greg Van Roten here on Inside the Jets, presented by EY, building a better working world. And welcome back to Inside the Jets. Dan Grossi here with you on the season finale edition of our program. And it's time now for our player guest segment, which is also brought to you by EY, building a better working world. And we're pleased to be joined by a local product who just wrapped up his first season in green and white. It is the right guard for the New York Jets, Greg Van Roten, who's nice enough to join us here on the program. Greg, it's Dan Grossi. Thanks for joining us here on Inside the Jets. How are you?
Thanks for having me. I'm good. The season's finally over, and looking forward to a healthy off season.
Now, it's only been, about 24 hours or so since you guys left that field in Foxborough after the Patriots game there. Have you had a chance to kind of process everything that you've been through for the last 4 months, or do you think that that's still coming over the next few days or weeks?
It's still coming. I mean, the end of a season is always something that's very sudden. You're in this routine, you're grinding day in and out, and then all of a sudden, schedule's over. There's nothing to prepare for next week, and everyone kind of goes their separate ways. So it's pretty, sad in that regard. But it's exciting that, you get to look forward to another off season to train, and then you get to see what happens with free agency, and this year with us, a coaching search. And, there's going to be the draft and all that, and then we get right back to it. So I guess it's the sadness of one season ending, but the excitement of what's on the horizon.
And you mentioned the coaching search, right? Adam Gase was relieved of his duties last night by the team. And, when you kind of put a postscript on this season, the fact that there was a coaching change, does that influence the outlook any way or the other about, everything that you guys just went through?
No, I mean, it's just, like I said, it's exciting to see what's going to happen, who they're going to bring in, and, where you fit in that scheme or in their vision. So you hope to be a part of it going, forward. You trust in what Joe Douglas is trying to build here, and you just want to add value as a player and as a veteran specifically.
It's never a pleasant time, of course, right, Greg, whenever you have a coaching change at the end of the season. There's families involved. And, from a human story and a human standpoint, it's difficult, certainly. But you being a player, and change is evident in the National Football League, right? It's a part of the fabric. Last year when you were with the Carolina Panthers, you also experienced a coaching change when they got rid of Ron Rivera. Does it make it any different? Were you kind of prepared for something like this, dealing with it now that you've been through this now 2 years in a row?
Yeah, I mean, I guess last year with Ron was my first experience because they did it towards the end of the season. We still had a couple games left. So that was very strange because, he was relieved of his duties. You have an interim head coach, and the whole feel of the team changes there. This year, the writing was on the wall, obviously, for Adam. And when it finally did end, it is very sad, like you said, from the human element. It's the guy's livelihood, his job, and it's over. And he's someone that believed in me and brought me to this team, so I'm grateful for that. And hopefully I can stay here and, like I said, add value to the team. But it's the NFL. It is a brutal game and it's a brutal business because if you're not producing, you will be replaced. It goes from the top down, GMs, coaches, and especially players. Year over year, there's lots of roster turnover across the league. And the only thing that's consistent really is the colors of the uniforms, because you saw last year in free agency, you got guys who had been in one jersey for 2 decades, like Tom Brady, and all of a sudden he's in Tampa Bay. So it's definitely wild in that regard.
Earlier today, you guys had an in-person meeting with the team with Joe Douglas and Christopher Johnson. What was conveyed in that setting to you guys?
It was just a quick little post-mortem on the season and how much they appreciated, the effort that the players put in and day out to, get our first couple wins, and going forward, what they're looking for specifically in the players and the type of guys they're going to continue to bring in and the coaches that they're going to, bring in to right the ship. So it's more, forward looking than, looking back, because everyone knows what happened this year. So they'll figure that all out, and then we'll see what happens with the coaching staff that they bring in, a head coach, and go from there.
And welcome back into Inside the Jets, presented by EY, building a better working world. Dan Grassa alongside Bart Scott. And let's get more now from the voices of the New York Jets. Here's Bob Wischusen and Marty Lyons. Guys?
All right, thanks very much. Well, Marty, I guess we can look specifically at this game for the Jets as they fall for the 14th time this season, but maybe more in totality at the Jets season, that, you have a 2-game winning streak there. There were some positives, but that does not shroud the overall problems that they have and that Joe Douglas has to address during this offseason, because there's no satisfaction in any way, shape, or form by anyone in that building. Really no emotions probably other than frustration and embarrassment at a 14-loss season, and he wants to get this fixed.
Well, you know what, Bob? I think all of us, as part of the organization, feels embarrassed about the way that they performed. Nobody thought that they'd go 2-14, and a lot of times they didn't show up for games, and they did perform. We talked about the effort. We talked about the energy. Joe Douglas has a lot of work to start doing for the 2021 season, starting right now. I think that, if you look at some of the positive, some of the younger guys that got a chance to play, like Lamar Jackson, Neville Hewitt, these guys, Bryce Hall, these guys proved that they could play. Your defensive line looks like they're going to be a solid position. You got to look at the offensive line. Maybe you tweak it a little bit. Chris Herndon came on at the end. So there's a lot of positives that you can build on.
Yeah, and if there is a big positive for Joe Douglas, he inherited Quinnen Williams and Chris Herndon, players like that, but the way that this roster is going to turn around first and foremost is not free agency. It's the draft. And you want to know that you have a general manager that knows what a good college football player looks like, and a scouting staff that can find a good college football player. And when you look at how Mekhi Becton and Denzel Mims played this year when healthy, what Bryce Hall looked like when he finally got on the field, LaMichael Pirine showed signs. I mean, there's enough, I think, in the group that was drafted this past season to make a Jet fan say, all right, well, maybe we have a general manager and a scouting staff now that really has a good chance to do damage in the draft so that we can get this roster back to where it's supposed to be.
I think 2 things that the fans have to understand is, number one, he's going to build this program. You have to give him time to develop this culture into what he believes it should be. And number 2, you have to be able to draft and develop players that want to play for the New York Jets, want to be a part of this organization, want to be a part of the community, and want to be a part of a rebuild. You can rebuild here in the NFL in a short period of time if you have the right attitude and the right players.
Well, this season now is in the rearview mirror, which is where the Jets wanted it to be, and now that offseason work can begin. So for the final time, for Marty Lyons, I'm Bob Wischusen. Back to you in the studio.
Coming up, we'll have more with Jets guard Greg Van Roten right here on Inside the Jets, presented by EY, building a better working world. All right, welcome back to Inside the Jets, presented by EY, building a better working world. Dan Grassa, Bart Scott, and we're joined by Jets right guard Greg Van Roten. Season's over. Body has to heal. when do you get back into the training and getting ready for next season?
Yeah, you don't want to take too much time off, but you definitely need to relax a little bit. So, for me, I'll probably take about 2 weeks off, and then I'll start, getting back into light training, active recovery type stuff. And, the one positive that came out of the virtual off season was we have this app where the strength coaches can just upload, workouts, things like that onto it. So you can just look at it on a daily basis and see like, all right, I'm gonna do this today. And it's pretty straightforward. But yeah, you definitely need to let your body rest a little bit. But if you go too long, it's going to be harder to get back in shape. And before you know it, OTAs are starting one way or another.
Well, how do you recover mentally? Because I think mentally, this probably was the most taxing year for any athlete or anybody in the world. So how do you get your mind right and kind of go to a place where you can recover and get ready for the grind all over again, but also recover and think about all the things that we've learned? You guys were kind of in a bubble, but not in a bubble, where you guys are athletes just naturally were isolated from some of the issues that the world deals with because you have the best medical staff, you're being attended to. But I mean, man, like now you're back to reality and now like you're in it every day.
It's going to be a different type of off season for sure. Typically the end of the year, my wife is a teacher. She has her winter break in February. So we've always gone on a trip together somewhere. Last year we were in St. Lucia. A year before that, we went to Iceland. So, it's going to be different this year because can't really travel that much. She's not allowed to go certain places as a teacher because you don't want to go somewhere and bring, COVID back. So we're going to have to figure that out because you definitely do need that mental break of the season is over, take a breath, reset, recharge the batteries, and then get ready to start training again. And like you said, it was a year unlike any other mentally for a lot of guys. The rookies have nothing to compare this to. So I feel for those guys trying to navigate this year that they had to just go through with, their college seasons ending, and then they start their pro day draft training into a non-existent OTA, into a completely different training camp than anyone's ever gone through, into one of the strangest regular seasons in regards to what was required off the field. There's a great social responsibility to your teammate this year to don't screw this up for everybody else. Don't be the guy that goes out and brings it back into the building and all of a sudden, you're playing without a quarterback or you have 20 guys on the COVID list. So that's stressful, whether you want to admit it or not, that is something you don't want to be that guy. And once the season ends, it's like, all right, you don't have to test every day. You can kind of, let your guard down a little bit, but you still got to be, diligent because you're not really sure the long-term effects of coronavirus yet. And you just got to be careful. So as far as what you can do mentally and to kind of reset is just, I think, you got to get away from football for a little bit, hang out with your friends and your family that you're able to see and just kind of unwind a little bit, relax, and then get yourself ready to go because before you know it, there's another season starting.
Thanks again for joining us. We always appreciate the time you gave us throughout the season here and your dealings with us here. And Happy New Year to you and your family. Stay safe, stay healthy, have a good off season, and we hope to catch up with you again next year, Greg.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Well, that's all the time we have for this season of Inside the Jets, but we want to thank everybody who made this show possible. Chris Gargano, Matt Sitkoff, Chris Ubbins, all the people behind the scenes, and Bart, it was a pleasure working with you, my man. I can't wait to do it all again next year.
Hey, footprints, man, you made me better.
Footprints are always a good thing. For Bart Scott, I'm Dan Grasso. We hope you've enjoyed us here on Inside the Jets. We'll see you again next year, everybody. Take care.